It felt like they had been judged, like a rule book had been passed over them, measurements had been taken, and from a very few questions that without going very deep, they had been confined into a category, a definition, a classification. Much like a butterfly who was once free to fly, they had now been pinned to a piece of cardboard and a label placed underneath. They had been dehumanized. They were now one of those. And I wanted to know more. Yeah, I'm curious to hear how the weavings of a broken world has bumped into your humanity. Have you ever felt judged, categorized, put into a category, or even banished because of judgments made about you? You want to jade, Jade, right? And what that stands for is you want to justify yourself. You want to argue your case. You want to defend and explain. But you know that every time you have done this, no one has listened. No one has listened because no one wants to spend the time to go deeply and fully into the depth of your mucky mire of what being human is like. Instead, it's much easier to place you in a box and treat you in a certain way. Perhaps you have taken on a box, lived in it, and falsely assume that that is who you are. Here in New Zealand, and I think possibly in Australia, we have a little phrase to be put in a box. And here's the definition: to judge someone unfairly as a member of a category of person based on very few factors. I like this definition. A judgment is made. The judgment is unfair because it doesn't take into consideration all the factors. The person is categorized and labeled, and all of this is based on very few factors, even assumptions. And I think I'd probably add two other factors. It's often done with speed. They make judgments very quickly. The second thing is the box or the category gets reinforced by a groupthink, so that because everybody thinks that way, we've got to keep the group tight to being that way. And so the judgment is made according to the group and to keep the group harmonious. Have you ever been boxed? Judgments made about you that were unfair and based on very few factors. Perhaps the gossip mill was working overtime and the grind spat you out. Or perhaps you have adopted a box from which you live in and see the world from. A box that isn't true and actually needs exploding so you can walk into new freedom. I think we all do it, don't we? It's a way of feeling safe and finding security, of creating social structures. You're in this tribe, and to be in this tribe, you have to abide by these social norms. But when someone challenges the norms, breaks the rules, or steps out of the community, then they are placed in a box. You are this, you are that, blah, blah, blah. Gossip spreads to reinforce those social norms. We like boxes, and they work until they don't. They begin to not work when new information is received or the box just doesn't seem to fit anymore. When the judgment, based on very few factors, is overturned because new evidence has come to light. When changes happen and old judgments just don't work. I think of a number of criminal cases here in New Zealand where someone has been convicted of a crime, placed in a prison box, literally, and then new evidence has been found and the innocence of the person has been made known. They've walked out of the prison box, but the stigma still remains. Some people will continue to have them in that box. They will always be known for the box that they've been thrown into. You mention a person's name and they'll immediately think of that particular crime. They leave the box, but the shadow of the box remains. One of the features of the life of Jesus was that he constantly entered the lives of those who had been boxed. He talked with women and men, lepers, tax collectors, blind, lame, and everyone who didn't quite measure up. He entered the box of those who had been shunned and discriminated against. He even got a reputation for doing this. While Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, Matthew was a tax collector, and many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" Jesus was thrown into a box himself. And I've just written this. Good guy, but he eats with those we have shunned. Because he does these things, we reject him. Actually, he's upsetting our nice little social structure so that we better get rid of him. Let's nail him to a tree. Okay? They put Jesus in a box. He couldn't confine that box. They had to get rid of him. Everyone has one, okay? Everyone has a box from which they live. Judgments made form the walls. Judgments made by others about who we are. And we also adopt judgments. But I wonder what would happen if Jesus entered the box that we actually call home, our thinking, our thinking structures. I think he'd say, I think we need to do some work here. Some renovations are required. C.S. Lewis says this: imagine yourself as a living house. God comes in to rebuild that house. At first, perhaps you can understand what he's doing. He is getting the drains right and stopping the leaks in the roof and so on. You knew that those jobs needed doing, and so you are not surprised. But presently, he starts knocking the house about in a way that hurts abdominally and does not seem to make any sense. What on earth is he up to? The explanation is he is building quite a different house from the one you thought of. Throwing out a new wing here, putting on an extra floor there, running up towers, making courtyards. You thought you were being made into a decent little cottage, but he is building a palace. He intends to come and live in it himself. It's great, eh? Hey, perhaps the box you live in needs to explode from the inside out. I try to find a better word than explode, but it needs to, there's a swelling that needs to go on that just pushes it out so it just disintegrates. The walls of the box can no longer contain all of who you are and who you're becoming. The squareness of a box cannot contain the swelling roundness of a life full of Christ. You see, I want to grow fat. There is a beautiful verse in Isaiah that talks about yokes, and these are large collars that were placed around an animal's neck to pull a cart or a plough. And the yoke was was crafted to fit the animal's neck. But when the animal's neck grew and swelled, the yoke no longer fitted, or the box no longer fitted, all right? And there's a verse in Isaiah, in that day their burden will be lifted from your shoulders, their yoke from your neck. The yoke will be broken because you have grown so fat. I love that. The yoke will be broken because you're so fat. Yokes and boxes constrain. But then when there is growth from within, when there is fatness in you, you can't handle the restriction of a yoke or a box anymore. And that swelling, roundness in God explodes the box or just pushes it out so it just can't contain it. Look, I want to enter your box. You've been boxed, judgments made, gossip spread, a shunning by the community. Real or perceived, it still feels isolating. What is needed is for someone to enter that box with curiosity, like a delicateness to the dance, presenting comfort and love that sort of cuts through all the fear, a discerning of what is true and what is not, releasing shame and guilt, forgiving yourself and others, a reimagining of what life could be beyond the box. and then encouragement to take a few tentative steps. Remember this, that God knows everything, all right? God knows all the factors, everything that's gone on in your life, even things you don't know. And I believe that the God who knows all forgives all and wants to come into your house as such and build a palace. I've written a poem. I've been put in a box, walls closing in, judgments made, solitary confinement for them. Sharpen the edges, black and white lines. We have a category for them. Let's keep them inside. I like my life in categories. This one belongs, but not them. Keep them confined in a judgment. Isolated away, brain bent. He sees past the judgment, knows all the pain, all that lies hidden away. Dark nights, dark strain. You've put me in a box. God has entered there to sit with the lonely and broken. Jesus sheds a tear. God knows no boxes. They see us all the same. New garments for the child, new welcome and new name. I want to look beyond the walls, created that hold you in, seeing the swellness of newness, butterfly beauty, flying again. Hey, if you want to send me an email, email barry@turningthepage.co.nz. Share this post with somebody else. Hit the share, like it, leave a comment. That'll be great. Love to hear from you and make a connection. I hope this post has helped you and hope that you don't feel quite so alone in the box that you might have. Okay, bye.